For a special photo shoot, a photography team fills up a very deep pool and drops a sofa for the model to pose on. Day is working at this photo shoot and has asked his girlfriend Koi to bring their dog Lucky so he could appear in the pictures too. Since Day is diabetic, he needs to take a moment to get his insulin shot. Koi keeps him company and takes out a music box to joke about being pregnant, which gets on Day's nerves. The photo shoot continues normally and Lucky turns out to be an excellent model by doing all the tricks Day has taught him with a whistle. The next day Day and Lucky go back to the pool to clean and seal the place because it won't be used for a while. Before working, Day rests on a floatie tie while throwing the ball for Lucky to catch. He doesn't see a newspaper on the ground warning people about a crocodile lost in town. While looking for his ball, Lucky hears a weird noise in the maintenance room and barks at it. The fun is interrupted when the pool's owner pulls a lever to drain the pool and chains Lucky because he's worried the dog may fall in the pool. The man reminds Day to get to work and says goodbye since he'll be on vacation for the next 3 months. Before he leaves, Day asks him to order him a pizza. Thinking he has plenty of time until all the water is gone, Day continues to rest on his floatie tie and accidentally falls asleep. When he wakes up he realizes how low he's in this very deep pool and immediately panics. Since there are no stairs, he swims to the closest wall and tries to climb out, but there's nothing to hold on to and he ends up hurting a nail instead. Then Day tries using the floatie tie for support, but it's too slippery and he just falls. Next Day grabs the belt of his robe and ties his glasses at its end to start throwing it over the edge of the pool. He manages to hit his cell phone but it isn't strong enough to push it over. Day then begins yelling for help to no avail. At that moment his phone starts ringing and vibrating, which is slowly pushing it toward the edge. Day waits to catch but gets distracted when a barking Lucky slips and ends up hanging over the edge by his leash. A desperate Day swims as fast as possible and uses the floatie tie to push Lucky up, saving him right before the leash could choke him. This means he isn't there to catch the phone when it falls, however it's still connected to the charger so it's now hanging against the pool wall. Day rushes back to it but can't quite reach it, so he has to jump. A swat of his hand accidentally disconnects it and the phone falls into the water. By the time Day dives in and retrieves the device the water has already broken it. Afterward Day decides he needs to stop the water from draining further, so he dives in and covers the drainage vent with his robe. In the process his chain belt accidentally gets stuck in the robe. While Day struggles to free himself, the pizza delivery man arrives and doesn't see anyone around. He calls the pool owner, who tells him to leave the pizza and go. When Day finally manages to disconnect the chain, he resurfaces and calls for help, but the delivery man is leaving on his bike and the engine noise doesn't allow him to hear anything. Since he has no other thing to do but wait for help, Day gets on his floatie tie to rest and falls asleep again. Moments later Koi comes by and thinks Day is having fun, so she decides to join him. She gets on the platform and tries to jump, only to slip and hit her head on her way down. Lucky's barking wakes Day up and he immediately swims to rescue his unconscious girlfriend. Day then takes back his robe to cover the wound and puts Koi on the floatie tie while yelling for help to no avail. When night falls, the water level is so low that Day can stand on his feet. He checks Koi's injury and worries because it's still bleeding. Suddenly a noise echoes nearby and Lucky starts barking like crazy. The lost crocodile has been hiding in the maintenance room and is now coming out. Day sees it and tries to tell Lucky to stay silent, but the dog won't stop barking and the crocodile starts moving toward him. However it ends up slipping and falling into the pool too. A terrified Day looks underwater and tries to keep an eye on the beast. When he feels it swimming near his legs, Day steps on top of the sofa to gain some height. Then he yells at Lucky, blaming him for luring the crocodile to the pool. In the morning, the pool has no more water left. The crocodile is sleeping and Koi is still unconscious. Day notices something in her pocket and is shocked to find a positive pregnancy test. The news is hard to swallow but he still promises Koi that everything will be alright. Then he checks her wound and notices that it's still bleeding. He looks around for something that could help and discovers there's a tape roll stuck in the crocodile's mouth. Moving very carefully, Day approaches the animal and Lucky barks at him as a warning. Thankfully the crocodile doesn't wake up and Day convinces Lucky to shut up before trying again. As Day reaches into the mouth and grabs the tape, the crocodile wakes up and tries to bite him, but Day moves out of the way just in time. Then he runs back to Koi and tapes a piece of his robe to her wound to stop the bleeding. Thanks to a bucket that was at the bottom of the pool, Day has some water and drops a bit in Koi's mouth every few hours. When the crocodile is distracted, Day tries to open the drainage vent but no matter how much strength he uses the lid won't budge. He goes back to Koi and discovers that her necklace is a razor, so he takes it. When Day turns around, the crocodile is resting on top of the vent. He starts waving the tape as a whip to hit the animal's head from afar and at first the crocodile isn't bothered, but it finally walks away when Day hits its eye. Now he can use the razor as a screwdriver to pull out all the screws and remove the lid at last. Taking a look inside the hole reveals some tunnels and Day wonders if he'll fit in them. Then he goes to check on Koi and the crocodile uses the chance to hide in the tunnels. Day notices this and sits next to the vent to wait for the crocodile to come back, but nothing happens. Sometime later Day revisits his first ideas. He yells for help, tries to climb up, and tries to turn on the phone, but nothing works. His injured nail is getting worse, so Day painfully pulls out the broken bit with teeth before covering the finger with tape. The next time he checks on Koi, she's burning with fever, so he decides to take the risk and climbs into the tunnel. As Day crawls around he can hear the crocodile nearby, but it doesn't seem to be approaching. At the end of a tunnel he finds another lid, which he removes to enter a small area with stairs. He immediately climbs up to find another lid covering the exit, which is locked from the outside. Day starts screaming for help and is interrupted by Lucky barking. He looks up and sees in a mirror that the crocodile has returned to the pool to go after Koi. Right as the animal gets between Koi's legs, Day comes back and grabs it by the tail to throw it against the wall. Then he picks up a stick and acts as a shield for his girlfriend until the crocodile walks away. At that moment Koi wakes up and Day helps her sit up while telling her what happened, including that he knows about the pregnancy. He thinks about a conversation he had with a friend during which he explained that if Koi got pregnant, he would ask her to terminate it because they couldn't afford a baby. His friend had reminded him that termination was illegal and a sin. In the present, he hugs Koi but doesn't say anything. At nighttime, the wind pushes a cup with some string over the edge of the pool and Day quickly catches it. Koi is now resting on the sofa from the photo shoot and grabs the other end of the string which has a second cup. They use it to chat like kids do and Koi reminds him not to give up because he must protect his family. She also says she's hungry and Day wonders if their dog is as hungry as them. At that moment Lucky makes a noise and Day looks up to discover his pet is eating the pizza. It takes some yelling but eventually Lucky throws the box with the rest of the pizza into the pool. There isn't much left and Day wants Koi to have it all, but Koi says the baby wants their dad to eat too. Another flashback shows how Koi used to complain about Day working so much that he didn't even have time to take her out for pizza. Now she can't help crying because they're finally having pizza together. In the morning Day is woken up by Lucky throwing a pipe into the pool. There isn't any water left in the bucket and the heat is unbearable. After peeing in a corner, Day uses the tape to write, "Help," on the ground. However he's getting dizzier and dizzier by the second and ends up passing out. He dreams of his favorite moments with Koi but it soon turns into a nightmare when he sees himself trapped in water. In the evening Koi wakes him up and together they push the sofa down so they can sit while having a shield on their backs. Koi reveals the crocodile is female because she saw the animal lay eggs in the afternoon. Then it starts raining, so the couple can gather some water in the bucket again. On day 4, Day stares at the crocodile for a while before passing out again. When the animal tries to get closer, she steps on Day's robe and falls into the tunnel because this was a trap all along. Day stops pretending to be asleep and runs to push the crocodile further in until her whole body is gone. Next he puts the lid back on the hole and the couple puts the couch on top of it, sitting on it to add extra weight. Afterward they combine the stick and sunlight through Day's glasses to start a fire that allows them to cook the crocodile's eggs. Day wants Koi to have it all again but she insists on sharing. That night they put the sofa up against the wall and climb on top of it, with Day also acting as a base for Koi. She almost reaches the edge of the pool and Day stands on his tiptoes to lift her higher, but it's still not enough so they come down. Determined to protect his girlfriend, Day thinks of a new plan. He'll let the crocodile return to the pool so that they can hide in the tunnels and keep the baby safe. Koi takes the music box out of her pocket and notices the baby figurine is gone, so she wonders if Day threw it away. He says it fell, but he actually did throw it. This makes Koi wonder if Day wanted her to terminate the pregnancy, and when he confirms it, she has a breakdown. Day tries to comfort her, but Koi slaps him and pushes him away while calling him cruel. He tries to explain he's struggling in life and not apt to be a father, but Koi points out all the things he's done for their survival in the pool, proving he can do anything. In the morning the couple drags the sofa away from the vent and the crocodile immediately comes out. While Day helps Koi get into the tunnel, the crocodile searches for her eggs but only finds the shells, so she immediately comes after Day. He rushes to grab the fallen music box before sliding on the floor to quickly reach the vent, then he jumps inside and closes the lid right before the crocodile can reach him. That night Day starts feeling really sick and Koi realizes he hasn't had his shots in days. Day remembers he left a syringe near the pool, so he lifts the exit lid enough to push his robe with some wire. He manages to push the syringe on top of the robe, but when he tries to pull it toward the vent, the syringe falls and breaks. In the morning Day keeps dreaming about a life with Koi and their child. He accidentally drops the music box under a barrel, and when he reaches it to retrieve it, he's shocked to find his insulin case. It turns out his boss accidentally dropped it when he left. Day immediately injects himself and feels better. Sometime later they see a parachute flying in the sky and Day rushes up the stairs to yell for help, but he isn't heard. On his way down he doesn't notice the necklace with his whistle getting stuck on a pipe. Then he rushes back into the pool only to discover the parachute is just a child's toy. He starts yelling for help again, but it's pointless. At that moment a strong wind starts blowing and sends some barbed wire with clothes flying. The wire gets stuck on a pipe and most of it lands on the edge of the pool. Day decides to try to climb it, severely injuring his hands in the process. His weight causes the wire to start slipping off the pipe, but Day still keeps going. When he's about to reach the edge, the wire finally comes off and Day falls. The bad landing breaks one of his legs before he passes out. On day 6, Day wakes up in terrible pain. Using some sticks and tape, he creates a splint around the broken leg and passes out again. When he wakes up, he looks at his injuries and finds the crocodile biting his leg. Day kicks her off and hits her head with the bucket until she walks away. That night it starts raining and the space where Koi is hiding begins filling with water. She bangs on the barrel to ask for help, but when Day tries to reach the vent, the crocodile comes after him again. Thinking fast, Day throws the sofa on the crocodile to trap her and jumps into the tunnel, making sure to close the lid before crawling away. The entrance to Koi's room is blocked, so Day decides to go looking for alternate exits. After exploring for a while, Day is excited to find another lid and light coming through it. He immediately begins pushing until he manages to open it, only to be disappointed by what he finds outside. It turns out this place has 2 pools and the vents connect them. Day screams in frustration as he has a breakdown. When he calms down, he returns to the tunnel but barely gets to move before passing out. One day 7, the parachute toy falls in the pool and 2 people come looking for it. They tie a ladder to a barrel and hang it on the edge of the pool to come down. While grabbing the toy, they notice the tape message and the blood. However, because of the sofa, they assume it's all part of a production. They don't see anyone because the couple is in the tunnels and the crocodile is under the sofa. Day wakes up when he hears their voices, but by the time he reaches the pool, the men are already gone. At least they left the ladder, but when Day tries moving, the crocodile comes out to block his way. Since it's raining again, the water level in Koi's room is rising quickly, but she can't leave because the barrel is stuck in the vent. Day takes off his shirt and ties it around his hand before doing the same with some barbed wire. When he steps back, he trips on the bucket and falls, allowing the crocodile to grab his leg again. He kicks her a few times to push her off, then he sits on top of her and starts punching her with the wired hand. The crocodile responds by hitting him with her tail to throw him down and moves on top of him to continue the fight. When Day looks up, he sees Koi about to die in the mirror, which inspires him to keep going. He reaches behind him and breaks the sofa's leg, which he uses to stab the crocodile in the eye. Unfortunately, the rain causes the barrels to slip off the pile and take the ladder with them. When Day sees this, he falls to his knees, thinking it's over. Suddenly the crocodile hits him in the back before biting his stomach, leaving severe wounds. When she's about to bite his head too, Koi finds the whistle and blows it. Day snaps out of his daze and puts the stick in the crocodile's mouth to block it. Koi is still blowing the whistle and Lucky starts barking, so Day tries to tell him to stay back. Lucky doesn't listen and tries jumping into the pool, but the chain breaks his neck and now his body is hanging over the edge. A furious Day then picks up the pipe Lucky threw earlier and inserts it into the crocodile's mouth, pushing until he stabs her brain to finally kill her. Desperate to save Koi, Day has no other choice but to use Lucky's body to climb out of the pool. When he reaches the head, he says goodbye and lets the body fall so he can continue climbing with just the chain. Then he rushes to the other vent and tries using a pipe to open it. The strength he puts on this lever-like movement causes the pipe to bend and leave him hanging over the other pool. However, Day refuses to give up and keeps applying strength until he opens the lid. The pipe snaps in the process and Day falls, but he holds onto the edge of the pool just in time. Day pushes through his leg pain to climb out of the pool and runs to jump into the tunnel water. He finds an unconscious Koi and drags her out to immediately start doing CPR. At first there's no reaction and Day cries as he hugs her, thinking she's gone. Fortunately, his grieving screams wake her up and they reunite with a hug.